Time has come once again to speak as witches, wizards, and neophytes do. I'm Daniel and Michaela.
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
And we're your hosts for the Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 14, I said? Yeah, 14. Patrick Belanger. Alternatively, and I'll explain this to get us out of the way, it's also alternatively Brother Boar. Because I said last week that we were going to be introducing a spirit once a week. Brother Boar decided to cede his time. He's still going to produce the episode, but he decided to cede his time to our guest today. And our guest is the man, the myth, the legend, the nephew, Patrick Belanger.
Yay!
Say hi, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick.
I knew you'd do that. So one of the reasons to have Patrick on, and the reason why Brother Boar was excited to cede the floor, because Patrick is a good example of our listeners who have been in tune with the spiritual all along, but not necessarily realizing they were in flow with it. So that's why Patrick is on.
Okay.
Because Patrick, well, do you remember your first experience, Patrick?
No, I don't. Grandma told me about it, but I don't remember it. Kind of unfortunate.
Well, do you remember what she told you?
Yeah, sitting in the back of the car, and I think she said she had to leave, but she was worried. But I said, no, don't worry, because something like Grandpa is sitting here protecting me or something like that, right?
So all his great-grandfathers are dead and were dead at that time. So not referring to his grandfathers, because they're both living,
Right.
but his great-grandfathers. And the way I remember hearing the description, I think it's actually my dad's father. So my great-grandfather on my dad's side.
Mm.
But you have stuff you remember.
Mm-hmm. Kind of school. I got really, really bored.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled out of my body, out into space, like a giant entity behind me. It's freaky. I remember thinking, there's no way the solar system is like still stable with that thing sitting in it. It was freaky. Freaky. And I got thrown back into my body. Thought I was gonna die. You know, with the speed I was heading towards it, I was gonna get thrown across the room. It's scary.
Yeah.
And what did happen when you got back? Did anybody notice that you'd gone anywhere?
No, they were off doing their own stuff, you know. They were all doing schoolwork. We're playing on the tablets that we had. Other than that, no, nobody really noticed. Unfortunate. It was cool. It was a cool experience to have, you know. Everything looked all part. I don't know how to describe it. Like there were like fields of some kind, sort of penetrating everything. One of them seemed more, I guess, physical. They represented physics, and one was more spiritual, like life, what was alive, and even like tables and chairs had a little bit of the life, not a lot, but some. I found interesting. I don't usually
It is
think
pretty cool.
Yeah. I also need you to stay closer to because you lost when you went to take your drink of water. We lost you. Whatever you said at that point.
Why can't there? I'll just crouch.
Actually, that's pretty good. You almost need an arm. You can set the iPad on and just swing it to where you are. But yeah. So that's why I said, like, I was going to introduce Patrick as the man the spirit world didn't forget, because a lot of times, right, you have experiences, but you don't think you're part of it. But clearly, Patrick was never left by the spirit world, and that's kind of I kind of want some, at least the listeners who have had experiences but feel like they're outside of it, to kind of get an idea of that you're not lost to the spirit world. You're just there's things you have to learn in transitions, right? Like you'll have experiences, but you still have to learn things. Like to my understanding, because like Patrick has a lot of interest how humans function, how societies function.
Mm-hmm.
He even had his own ongoing project of building a society and a system of government. But
Right.
so what I'm getting at is that for people listening, you're not ignored just because you're not having like 50 experiences every day. You can have one every so often, just to remind you that the spirit world is there. But the fact that
Well,
you got pulled,
sometimes you can have experiences that you don't really recognize that that's what it is, and you kind of dismiss it as just being a blip or not really important. But if you look back, there's probably more things that most people will recognize if they give it a chance and if they are open to that. I have a question for you, Patrick. Do you like drawing?
do you like to draw?
Yeah, I like drawing. Not great at it,
Good.
but I like it.
Ah, you see, I very intentionally did not ask if you were good at drawing. I asked you if you liked drawing. And there was a point to that because the experience that you've described to us, I would be fascinated to see a visual representation of that. I'm not saying you copy what you saw on the paper. I'm saying a representation, what it meant to you, drawn, and it looks like whatever it looks like. But I think that would be amazing.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking of painting it on my ceiling at one point. I was entertaining that idea. Thought that would be interesting. Just have it on my
That'd be
ceiling.
very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would draw that though. Like, oh.
I'm going to suggest paper first because your arms are going to get awfully tired if you have to keep erasing it on the ceiling.
Yeah. So I'm going to imagine there's a lot more stories than you shared, because I'll offer this up. Patrick did a thing that I never expected to hear from anybody when talking to me. So Patrick was talking about he had been encountering some spirits in the woods, and he told them not to talk to me about what he was doing.
Aha!
Now, I'm not saying you have to share anything you don't want to share.
uh,
It's just
well,
that clearly you have other experiences.
well, maybe. What I would think could be other experiences, you know? I don't know if it would be.
Well, that's why you're on here.
Did I tell you about how? No.
No,
Don't
you
want.
did.
Maybe I don't want to share it. We'll move on.
Okay. The reason I'm saying it is because a lot of people may not recognize they're having experiences, but are having weird times. And you're a good example of that. So I just wanted to give an example to people listening.
Mm-hmm.
But Patrick has all the signs of someone being communicated with spirits. Got interest in, well, in the interconnection of how living things are.
Mm.
I'm not saying everyone has to have that to be in touch with the spiritual, but it is a very big sign of seeing how
I think
things
the
connect.
trick is to get comfortable with it,
Yes.
just not worry what people think and what people say. Because honestly, people talk a lot of crap anyway, so there's really no point listening to them. It's if you try and fit yourself into what other people think you should be looking like and doing like, that's a really uncomfortable place to be. So, that's something I advocate for is be open to recognizing the experiences and being okay with them because it doesn't really matter what they were. They were your experiences. So, as such, valid and as such, perfectly fine. That's my 10 cents worth on that
Mm.
subject. But deja vu is something that a lot of people get right. You'll be suddenly kind of outside of the situation, looking in and saying, "Whoa, I've heard all of this before, and I know exactly what's coming next."
Mm.
And I don't know if everybody has that, but I kind of think they do. Um, because I've experienced that for as long as I can remember. So is that something you've both experienced and would recognize as being just something that happens?
And deja vu,
Yeah.
like at all, or in a particular way.
I'll give you
Well,
my
it's a
example.
sense. It's
Yeah.
a sense of knowing of having been there before. Like you've witnessed this current situation before, and here it is again.
That happens a lot, actually.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Sometimes I feel like I'm going insane.
Yeah. You
Happens.
got an example?
Hmm?
You got an example?
Not right on the top of my head here, so
No.
nah. It's gonna
So
be
why? So you said, it feels like going insane.
does.
Right? Describe it a little. Just describe the sensation a little bit.
This is called the hot seat.
Yeah. When someone's nervous, you should always put them on the hot seat.
What do you mean?
Well, because you're the one who made it clear. But I'll share with you one of my deja vus. This is the most potent deja vu I've ever had. I've had others, but this one was good. I was going to college. And the first day of class, when you run into everyone in your class, right, where you start seeing them. And I already kind of had the history of my time with them already when I saw them. Like I already knew what my history was with them.
Hmm. Okay, that's a pretty significant
Yeah.
level.
Mhm.
Yeah, because after I went home, I was like, okay, that's like I've had deja vus, but this is like I already know who these people are. I know why they're who they are. I know.
It kind of feels like you've stepped out of time, if you will, and you've jumped somewhere.
Mm,
It just feels a little like out of sync, you know? Just whoops, I skipped a beat, or I jumped forward a few. They jumped back some. Somebody moved, and it just feels like, okay, let me get my bearings again.
mm,
Where am I going with this? Right, okay, fine, and then you can sort of carry on. But just for a minute there, it's like out of time and place.
right. Well, it's funny since while Patrick is thinking about it. So I have a number of ideas around deja vu. One of them is like there is the obviously because I've had that experience, right? And I had the sense of all those things. So to me, there's one where you get in contact with your what was I going to say the script of your life that you set out.
Hmm.
So because like a lot of people will talk about precognition and say, well, time flows backwards. Like, well, maybe time doesn't flow backwards. Maybe you just because you set things up, you just recognized where you were.
Okay. Hmm.
And because I've had other kinds of deja vu where I recognize it for what it is, and it's a glitch in memory, like where your brain doesn't store it correctly in order. So what you feel is seeing the future is just that split, because you don't experience the world directly. It goes through processing and then you see it. There's the conscious processing of the event and there's the subconscious processing in the event. And there's a glitch between the conscious and the subconscious processing. That's a different kind of deja vu than the one of where I had details of the people.
Yeah, what you're talking about there is to do with memory, whereas deja vu is
Mm,
typically this is something that's now happening that you recognize.
right.
You recognize it as having been there before, although it's not really in your conscious timeline. So you
Right.
can't be remembering it as something that's happened in this plane on this planet.
Mhm.
That's not where you're remembering it from.
Right.
But
But there
um,
is the distinction, right? Because it's like the difference between sleep paralysis and actually having an old hag experience or having like being accosted in your sleep, if you will. There's a difference between the two. I've had the two, And there's a very big difference between the two. If you describe it, it sounds the same, but there is a big difference between the two events. And that's why I brought it up with deja vu. There's a difference between your memory glitching about an event and having an actual sense of future events happening.
Right. And just to throw a spoiler in there, sometimes if you typically don't sleep well, you can have more memory glitches than if you do sleep well because you're not giving your brain time to process everything. But that's a sort of more of a sciencey aside.
Yeah. Patrick's processing.
Right. We're throwing stuff at him left, right, and center.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's important, right? And Patrick likes to get down to the details of things and the scientific aspect as well as the currently going into.
Must have a one in your profile.
Right. And that's another part of Patrick, actually. But it's something that a lot of the listeners are probably encountering in their growth right now. Is I'm curious scientifically and I want to know things, but there's this whole other aspect that I don't see. Patrick's nodding for people because you can't see him. So that's kind of, again, a reason for having him on so that people listening can go, oh, yeah, okay, no, I get it. I understand that. Actually, we were discussing this yesterday about, you have a character in a story that is supposed to be represent the viewer or the listener or the reader to introduce the world.
Uh-huh.
That's why I didn't think about it yesterday to say it, but yeah, that's what Patrick's place is right now in the podcast.
No pressure. No pressure.
Just holding the weight of everybody else on my shoulders, that's all.
Yeah.
Good job you sitting down. You can handle it.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to see if Brother Boar's got anything. He does. So, Patrick. Where do you want to go from here?
Q&A. I got some questions from other people, some fans of the show. You want to answer?
Fans of the show? Yeah.
Answer the show right now.
My God, that sounds so good.
It does. I love that. Okay,
Fans of the show.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Welly Luna has 2 questions. How many wizards to beat a witch?
How many wizards to beat a witch?
Yeah. And then there's why do people involve religion and everything? That's what he wanted to know.
Let me jump in on the first question. That's such a bizarre question. I have to say it depends on whether the witch likes it or not.
That's a great answer.
Why, thank you. Speaking as a witch, I can't say I've ever been beaten by a wizard. Okay.
Yeah. Not yet. Okay, what was the other part of the
This
question?
could go a certain direction.
Yeah.
This really
Let
could.
the listeners decide.
And then we'd have to put a whole other level of explicit on it. But,
right.
What? Sorry, what was the other question? I got quite taken with the being beaten by a wizard idea.
Why do people involve religion and everything?
I can go if you like. Or do you want to, Danielle?
Go ahead.
People involve religion in everything because religion is organized. It is comforting in that there are rules, and if you follow the rules, you'll end up in a good place, and everybody else tells you that you're a good person, and they pat you on the head, literally or metaphorically, and you're in a group. So if you have religion in everything, then it's safe. And I use really seriously heavy air quotes on the word safe on that one. But it's just you're told that if you do this, you're okay. And you're told from very little. And if you grew up in the Catholic faith, then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, he grew up as a Mormon.
As Mormon?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, that's a whole other ball game. Right. So then you got to be following the rules. And if you step outside of that, you're in trouble. That's the wasteland. That's where the devil's going to come grab you and do bad things to you, right? Like so religion comes into everything as a code for the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's my viewpoint. Danielle, what you got?
Well, I agree with that. And I'll be honest, from the conversations I've had with people, when I talk about, spirituality and like, what's it like to actually walk a path? It's scary to a lot of people because there's no specific rules, there's no specific outcomes, there's no everything is as insecure as it is if you didn't believe to someone who hasn't been in it. Like there's almost like a connection when you're like when you walk a very actual spiritual path and there's almost a connection to atheism in it, in that atheism is the idea of shed, like part of it is you shed your belief in gods and stuff and you face the world raw, you know, without the comforts of that. Spirituality is like that, but you learn to deal with the spiritual, whereas atheism stops there. But that beginning part where you shed everything you were taught in religion, the world becomes a scary place all of a sudden. What do you mean there's no one like what do you mean there's no one deity all powerful protecting me from everything? What do you mean there's no I die, I go to heaven? What do you mean there's no punishment for everyone? Why is there no this black and white world that I grew up in where everything had its place and everything was comfortable?
Mhm.
It's really, the whole thing is an illusion anyway, right? It's not black and white. It's never been black and white. It's not going to be black and white. That's not how it works. But speaking of religion, I find that when somebody's first getting into witchcraft, if they haven't sort of been raised in it or then they don't come to it young, they will often go to Wicca at least first. And Wicca is a sort of religious version of witchcraft. There are rules. You have the threefold rule, which is all about, do no harm. It's like the three monkeys. You can't do any harm. Don't do any bad stuff. No dark magic, etc., etc. Otherwise, bad things are going to come and get you. And it's just a different take on religion. Wicca is probably going to get to a world of hurt for this one, but whatevs. Wicca is a religion. When you step out of that and then you just practice the way you practice, whatever that is, if water is your thing, fire, like fire and chaos, hi, that's kind of my line of things. When you go the route that you feel is natural to you, then you're stepping outside of everybody else's rule book. And that makes people uncomfortable. Even if you're comfortable with it, it scares the hell out of everybody else. And, if you have someone say to you, well, I don't believe in it. Okay, ask them for a piece of their hair and then see what they do. And they'll probably run screaming in the other direction, right? Because you just scared the bejesus out of them.
Yeah.
So, that's religion is very safe in a totally not safe way. That is absolutely illusionary.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of it, it's safe but not safe. It's
Well,
the
who commits most of the crimes against children? And you can pick a religion on that one. It's the people who are in charge of the religion, right? There's all kinds of nastiness that they do to small children, whether
Right.
it's hitting them or whether it's sexual abuse. But there's a whole lot of nastiness that goes on in those confines. So how safe is it exactly? Tell me that again.
Mhm.
It's not safe,
Yeah,
but that's
and
the
but
illusion.
everybody lost it. Oh yes. So when you go from religion to whatever atheism or whatever, not believing, and then you go into spirituality, the one thing you learn is that you shed all the ideas of a set of rules that'll harm you and stuff like that. To the only person who's going to harm you really is you
Uh-huh.
in your spirituality.
Absolutely. And you kind of go from believing in the one thing that everybody tells you to believe in to believing
Patrick's
in
glitching.
nothing to believing in everything. Like,
Yeah,
actually, yes, the sun does make a difference. The moon does make a difference. Where the planets are makes a difference. Water, fire, air, they all make a difference. So, actually, when you look back at the really, really old religions, and they wouldn't have thought of themselves as religions. It's just natural practice. That makes more sense than anything I've heard in more recent years. And I've studied comparative religion, both Daniel and I have, and it's fascinating. Like religions fascinate me because it tells you how people tick, what they think like in that given group. And I always find that fascinating. And how they perceive others from that group. I was traveling in Egypt once with my two kids, and we came to this temple where there was this beautiful depiction of the sun and the moon. And the story was that every day the sun dies so that the moon can rise, and then in the morning the sun is reborn, right? So it's a rebirth story. And while we were there, these two women were with us who identified themselves very strongly as being Christian. They did not say which type, didn't ask, but they were there in this gorgeous ancient temple laughing at the depiction of the rebirth and the relationship between the sun and the moon. And I'm like, whoa, excuse me? Would you like to tell me some of your beliefs? And then you're laughing at this? Like, wow. That was, they thought they were so superior, and the superiority was entirely in their heads. It was not like, seriously, look at the two things and then tell me who had the closer truth.
Mm.
I'm going with the ancient dudes and the painting on the cave, on the temple there.
Well, it's funny, right? Because the one thing you know from doing comparative religion is how tied together a bunch of religions actually are. The same stories shared through different cultures.
Oh yeah, and typically the closer they are, the more they fight.
Yeah. Well, I'll put this one out there.
Like siblings, neighbors, neighboring countries, provinces.
Yeah.
States. Like, I lived in Europe for a while, and the countries are small and they're kind of packed in, and oh my goodness, you should hear the stuff between them. I lived in Belgium. Do you think anybody takes Belgium seriously? They don't. And the French from France are so rude about the Belgian accent.
Mm.
And just everybody's got something to say about everybody else. And then Belgium, drive 2 hours in any direction and you're in a different country. And they have a fight going on inside the country between those who speak Flemish and those who speak French. And it's like, guys, it's a little house, you're in a little space here. Could we just, heads out of asses, let's just stop doing this now. But no, because it's been going on forever, and it's their thing. They're comfortable with it. And I'm sure they have their religious differences as well. One is more Catholic and one is more Protestant, and it's the same thing.
Yeah. So you've been processing there, Patrick?
Yeah. That actually reminds me of a video I watched. There was one, it was some racist dude yelling at a black guy. They were both British, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yelling at a black guy to go back to Africa. They both had a British accent, but the white guy could not fucking recognize that, Dude, the black guy clearly belongs in fucking Britain. Both have the fucking accent. They're both British. Fuck. But
you have that here all the time.
Huh?
You have that in the US all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. The exact same accent, the exact same culture, ways of thinking, but you're too close. You don't recognize your own accent, Nobody thinks of themselves as having an accent.
That's true.
Oh, I know I have one. I'm always getting told that. I don't know what it is, but I'm always getting told I have one. It's a little mix. But yeah, when you're too close, that's when you can't see, right? It's too close to see clearly. Did you have more questions?
Oh yeah. Somebody else had a question. Trampoline, what do you do if you think you're cursed? More practical advice, I guess. What she wants to know.
Good question. I can jump in again if you like.
Okay. Yeah. Took me a second there to catch that last name, but yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I didn't catch the name, but it depends on what the curse is. But if the first thing that leaps to mind is put them in a jar, and that is where it's a freezer spell. It's like, what are you doing? So if somebody's talking bad about you, if they're giving you a hard time, maybe they're giving you trouble at work or something like that, if it's that kind of curse, then you write their name on a piece of paper. If you have anything of theirs that you can add, so this is where the piece of hair would come in, but hey, you don't have to swipe it off the hairbrush. You can just put some intention in there. If there's some words that they use a lot, for example, you could include those. You put it in a little jar, seal that up with some candle wax, and there's a chant that you do over it, but you have a little chant, you put it in the freezer, and they find themselves less able to do that to you. So that's one. I mean, it really depends on what the curse is, but Return to Sender was a really good one, like a mirror spell. So you can Google those for different options. Depends on what you're comfortable with, how far you want to go, how bad they are, and who they're doing it to. And what did you do? Did you do anything to bring it about, or are they just bent out of shape because you exist? And like that will alter how you want to approach that. But there's lots of different ways to do stuff.
So you'll have to remember that one, Patrick.
Mhm.
Return to sender is always a good one because then whatever it is, whatever their intent is, you're just bouncing it straight back to them. Like, no thanks. I don't need any of that. You can have it back.
And that's
So if
also
they're
adds to this. In the meantime, while you're doing that spell,
Mhm.
it is always good to clean house
exactly the words I
because
was
the
thinking.
curse works because you're vulnerable. You look at where you're vulnerable.
Right.
What can be exploited to make the curse work? Like, for example, if someone wanted to curse you right now while you're on this episode, they just have to exploit your nervousness.
Yeah. And then I say, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say to me bounces back and sticks to you. Is that a spell? Is that kids casting spells?
Theoretically.
You're right.
You know what? Funnily enough, having it rhyme is actually helpful to, believe it or not, to getting it where it needs to go. Like it
The
is.
metaphor.
But whatever works. Like if the thing is, if you believe it's going to work and if you put the intention in it and you've put thought into it, then those are the ingredients you need.
That's right. Remember, the power of Pikachu compels you. Well, that's the thing, right? So that's actually a return to the idea of the primordial magics. It's not the. I actually answered something on Reddit. Well, I had asked a question on Reddit, and I kind of had a discussion, and I made the statement of, "Do you practice like do are there witches out there who consider their practice primordial magic?" It's a whole new thing with me right now. And someone had answered back, like, kind of, what do I mean by, the source of magic and stuff like that. And I said, really, what I meant was like, how strong is your connection? Because everyone taps the source of magic because you can't do magic without doing that. But how much layer of cultural pollution do you have between you and your connection? Or how much layer of cultural pollution is affecting your connection to the source of magic? And a lot of that is how you behave, what you think other people will think of you, what you think you have to do magic. So,
It's that rule bound thing again,
right,
right?
exactly.
It's the whole I have to keep myself in this container, otherwise people are going to think bad things, and people are going to say stuff, and it's like it's immaterial unless you let it be material. It's not an issue. It's amazing how you can just kind of look at someone who says, you know what, you're completely nuts. And you just say, uh-huh, hi, nice to see you too. Something like that. And then they're just, oh, okay. Because, you didn't give them, just like when you're in kindergarten and your parents say, don't react and they'll stop doing it. It kind of, that there's some truth to that. And if you are impervious to people's opinions of you, and that really is like the best place you can be. They don't deserve to have power over you, so don't give it to them. And then any kind of curses they try put on you, that loses a lot of power right there, and it becomes pretty easy to do a return to sender.
Yes.
And then that way you're not involving yourself. You're not putting your effort, your energy into that spell. You're just sending theirs back and then using yours for what you want to use it for. You don't want to waste your energy. It's a precious resource. So use it where you want it to be, not where other people pull you.
Hmm.
I have dogs rumbling in the background. I don't know if they're approving or what.
When you say energy, what does that actually mean? Could you measure this energy? Is this something you could measure, or is it just something you have to feel? I guess which would
If you
technically
got the tools to measure it, I imagine you can measure it.
be able.
Well, there's the energy field that you have around you. That's been measured by science, the magnetic field. Um, your life force is in your blood. I have idiot dogs. The life force that you have is in your blood. Like it's measurable, but is it going to tick a meter that says energy level here? It's there's different parameters for this, right? But your energy is okay. If you ever come across an energy vampire, and there is such a thing, and I have been related to one. Um, that person, they might be nice people, but you find that when you're around them, you get exhausted. Even if you're not doing that much, you're just like, oh my God, I just need to go lie down now. And you're literally drained of your energy. And that person, meanwhile, is bouncing around like, yeah, let's go party or whatever it is. And you're like, I'm done, I'm out of here. You're in the presence of an energy vampire. Now, are they doing it deliberately? No, probably not. It's just what they do. They feed off other people's energy. And literally, you'll know it if you're in the presence of somebody like that because it is utterly exhausting. So, how do you measure that?
The closest thing you have to a device to measure it is yourself and how you feel in the presence of the energy or when the energy is being used against you or around you. That's why I kind of like my practice is heavy on sensing the flow of things because you're your own built-in biological meter for the energy.
Hmm.
Until you come up with a way to make a device that can measure it, you
It's more
refine
of an
your own senses.
awareness, right?
Yeah,
It's
you
more of an
refine your
awareness.
awareness.
Like, you know, if you're around people who really get you energized and lift you up, it doesn't necessarily mean you're an energy vampire, but what it means is you're in the company of people who are in the same flow with you, or they flow in the direction that you're going in. If you're around people and you're just like, I am so utterly exhausted now, I need to sleep for a week, that's a clue that those are not your people for whatever reason. So
Right.
that measurement is subjective. It's how you feel.
Yeah, it would be like when you look at a group, right? You can automatically do one, two, three, four, five, maybe up to 10. And then kind of when you drift past, even if you do 10, past 10, it just becomes like more, or, it becomes groups. You just recognize it as more or less. You don't have a precise number after a certain point. But that's a natural, like that's how our brains interpret information. You don't have precision after a certain point, but you have comparison after a certain point. Because in nature you wouldn't need to have a precise count of like 6 million things.
Yeah. 65 lines, 66 lines. What's the difference, really? It's dangerous.
Right.
And that's an important part to remember. You have to remember who you are as a human being and what that means for you as a human being and what your species is adapted for.
Actually, here's another measurement for you for energy while you ponder that one,
Mm.
because you look so curious. But the idea just came to me of when you're doing something with your day that you really love to do, whatever that is, the day goes by like that. It's just, what do you mean it's time for dinner? What do you mean it's, 2 in the morning? Whatever it is, because you lost that time. You were so focused on the thing that you were enjoying. Your energy was so much in flow that time didn't matter. Now, if you have a job that sucks the soul out of your body because you hate it so much, I assure you, every minute of that day drags like an hour. So, the end of that day, you're just like, oh, could we have gotten here any quicker? Like, wow, it took a week to get through this day. So your energy is very different in those 2 days.
And
Yeah, this is sending me off on a not a tangent, but actually on a more of
No.
a look on how you normally would measure something anyways. Without like rulers and meters and stuff like that, one of the things you do just for looking for size, you take your hand and go, okay, well, this is like what the size of my hand. I mean, how we measure horses, right? Their height. How many hands tall is a horse at the shoulder? you use yourself in reference to other things. But use yourself as a reference. So if you have an idea of how much energy you have, you start doing the comparison of, well, that person has half my energy, or that person has 3 times my energy. So for you personally, you're measuring the energy in Patrick's.
Yeah.
I like that. That actually sounds like a unit of measurement.
Yeah.
So how many Patricks is that? Yeah, I like it. That
I'm going to
works.
start
You
doing
should
that actually
patent it.
myself. Now that I've said it out loud, me too. That guy's got at least 10 Patrick's worth of energy going on right now. Woo.
All right, we just created a thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, give me royalty.
Or PUs, if you will. Patrick units. 3 PUs, 2 PUs, half a PU. These are marked
It's
explicit, doesn't
hilarious.
matter.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So while that one sinks in, do you have another question?
Not right now.
Mm.
I had a whole fucking thing that I thought I was going to be able to do when I got on here, but it slipped away. I'm just too nervous right now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to have you back another time.
Maybe. Get more comfortable.
How does that go? Make the plan, follow the plan. The plan gets derailed. Forget the plan.
Yeah, planning's overrated, actually.
But you know,
I really think so.
I'm still sitting here with the idea of Patrick units.
That is actually, yeah. Could go somewhere with that. But
Yeah. Well, hey, Fahrenheit, Celsius,
right.
Planck. What else? Kelvin. It's all named after people. Ohms.
His own name.
Newtons. They're all units named after people. So there's, like we had discussed it before, right? At some point, science is going to catch up, and they're going to start naming things for themselves, and you're not going to recognize. You're only going to recognize that as magic if you know what magic is. Otherwise, it's going to give it some other name to it, and they'll be using Patrick units.
But the thing is, when you're getting into magic or working with spirits, however you approach it, the whole thing there is that it's outside of what is usually measured and contained in sort of religions and various other spaces that people like to control, right? Because that's the thing with religion as well, is its purpose really is control. Everybody that follows along follows a set of rules, and you know exactly what they're going to do at any given time. And some religions take that to a very fine point, and the entire day is mapped out. Every day of the week is mapped out. And that's, how much control is that? So where are you choosing? Where is your free will? And where are you choosing how your life looks? Some people will marry according to their religion. And that's a hell of a thing. If you wake up one day and you're like, I don't believe that anymore. Uh-oh. I had a friend that she was a housemate of mine, and she became a born-again Christian. For the same reason people often become born-again Christians, which is she had a traumatic experience. And so, they said, hey, welcome, welcome, we'll soothe you, da-da-da. She went in there and she found this guy within the same group, and everybody kind of encouraged, oh, yes, this is a good match for you. And so she married him, and they had 5 kids together. And I don't know how they're doing right now, but my concern for her was always, you weren't always in this space, and you might not stay in this belief, right? This didn't come naturally to you. You were catapulted into it by a trauma. And if you get over that, where are you now? Are you still in the same space? And if you are, that pompous ass that you married is not going to be as interesting as she thought he was. Not my favorite, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
But now she's got 5 kids with him. So her entire life and the life of these 5 kids has been dictated by her jumping into a safety, which was that religion, in order to sort of feel protected. Wow. That's a very potent situation to be in, and that has dictated a big chunk of her life.
Yeah, it's made me think of I've heard it in literature before, and I've actually heard people talk about being interviewed, especially Wiccans, uh, talking about this, where magic is you reclaiming your power
Uh-huh.
because you're not
Yeah,
relying
because the
on.
church, the church or whatever religion it is, will tell you that you don't have that. You have to go through them. You have to follow this path. You have to follow these rules. You have to do these things. You have to think this way. You have to talk that way. You have to do all these boxes. You have to tick all these boxes, or you don't get in touch with that power, right? Who are you to have that power? Well, it's your birthright. That's who you are. So it's everybody's birthright. And yeah, absolutely. Wiccan, maybe, but witchcraft, certainly. That's where you don't accept other people's restrictions.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember where I had heard it, and I had watched a lot of videos of people who were Wiccan and talking about magic, and I kept hearing that theme, but I see it a lot of times in fantasy movies, especially now, where it's the I'm reclaiming my power, therefore that's why I do magic to reclaim my power.
Basically,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And we need that very much in this day and age because there's a division between people that is artificial. It's created by the people who are in control and, government, religions, pick one. They're all doing
people who
it
we've
different
seen
ways.
we've given our power to.
Yeah, whoever you let be the boss of you,
Yeah.
right? Like who's telling you what to do? And that's where the control comes in, and that's where you lost your power. So when you start doing practices that are natural to you and you get in touch with that, you take back your power. That's what it means. It's not like I'm going to stomp up and down the streets, wave a flag, and yell, and that's taking back my power. No, that's putting on a show. But taking back your power is more subtle and it's more serious.
You know what? Brother Boar wants to say something, and he's well, not piggybacking, because we just kind of had a moment there of synergy. So exactly what you said, going out and stomping your feet and waving banners and stuff like that is not taking back your power. But what I wanted to add is that if you ever wonder why, uh, not what's the advantage, but what's the philosophy when people have magic when they vote, it's you are looking at it from who do I want to give power to? In the very literal sense, who do I want making decisions that affect my life? And I know people like, yes, that's what you're doing when you vote, but not everyone actually takes time to ponder what that actually means.
And not everybody actually thinks that deeply about it. I mean, I came across
Yeah.
someone who commented that I voted for Donald Trump just to piss off the liberals, and now I've lost my job. And it's like, okay, that was what you had, that thing, you had that precious thing, which was your vote, and you went and did that with it. Okay, now you chose where you put it, but the reason behind it was pitiful. It was pathetic because it was not about how anybody was going to benefit, not even a selfish motive. It was just, I want to go Nina, Nina, Nina to those people. Like they're going to notice you in the midst of all the millions voting. It was a travesty. Like it was the most ludicrous thing that anybody could have done. Vote the way you want to vote, but at least have a freaking reason for it, like put your energy somewhere, give your power to someone that's intentional. You did it for a reason, not just to annoy somebody. Like that's below kindergarten age. That's just wow. That's Neanderthal level.
Yeah. So where are you now, Patrick?
No, I'm thinking, how how do you communicate with spirits? Is that like, can they, what would it be? Can they eavesdrop? Is that something they can do? Or do people usually have more control than that? Like they
Can
can
you
sort
block them? Yes.
of, yeah, but how do you do that though? And how would you recognize that if you, yeah, How would you recognize that you're doing that? You know, it's weird.
I'll offer this.
Good question, and you're
Yeah.
making me seasick.
Yeah.
Can you sit still?
You can't see it, but Patrick is swinging back and forth in his chair.
I'm here thinking the movement means he's processing a lot, and then
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, but I'm going to get seasick.
Yeah. So what I'll offer you first, here's the basics of learning to communicate. One, just start talking. That's the first one.
Like out loud,
One-sided, but they're listening.
right?
But you're building a bond at the same time while you're doing that. Like,
So there's different possibilities, right?
yeah,
Like something I like to do. I love crows, right? Like I think crows are the most incredible creatures. They're very smart. They're graceful. They're so many amazing things, right? And so when I go out for a walk, there's a lot of crows nearby, and I will literally talk to the crows. And sometimes I require a feather or two for something I'm about to do, right? For some magic. And so I will literally, as I'm talking to the crows, and I don't care what people think as they walk past, but as I'm talking to the crows, I'll just say to them, I need a feather. Can you sort of let me have a feather, please? And the next time I walk past, I got 4 or 5 feathers there waiting for me. So that to me is a communication. Well, they'll even show up in my garden, whereas they don't usually.
mm,
So when something is you've put out a request, if you will, very respectfully. It's in a relationship kind of deal, not a, hey, I want this. But you're sort of communicating and asking for something. When it shows up and it's not where you expect it to be, right? Like my backyard is not where crows live. I have 10 animals here. We don't have crows in the backyard. So, when feathers arrive and I've asked for them, that's a communication.
yeah. Like when you have a pet, right? It's the same idea. The pet doesn't the pet understands you better than you understand the pet. Because the pet is dependent on you, so the pet has to learn to communicate with you, but you're not dependent on the pet, so you don't have that same incentive to learn from them. I'm not
This
drawing
is
a
more
direct
of a
analogy here, but
Yeah, because this is more of a
yeah,
talking to a spirit thing.
yeah,
Um, and that's as close to a physical comparison as I can
right.
give you.
Because the dog knows what you're saying. Well, the dog has a better idea of what you want than you have an idea of what the dog wants. So the spirit has a good idea what you want more than you have an idea of what it wants. But you still talk, and the dog will do its best to try to answer you. But you
Yeah.
So we're
start with
giving
that.
you two really different directions here. This
Yeah,
is Danielle's going in one
yeah,
direction, I'm going in another, and you're going to have to kind of contemplate which way you want to look at first. But and they're each. That's the point. Is it's each valid, and we all have our different ways of looking at
mm,
it. I just happen to really like crows, and there's a lot around here, so.
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, the idea, like in the end, like everything, practice, keep doing it. Eventually, you'll get the communication. Now, how do you stop it? Well, it's like you stop anything, you just shut yourself down. So, like some of the easier techniques, just picture yourself like bricked in, like a brick wall around you, completely closed in, with the
Hmm.
intention of you want to not be heard or seen. That's the easiest, quickest thing to do. Picture
The other
yourself
thing
closed
is
off.
when you put out a request,
Mm,
right? Like I did something a few months back where I asked for clarity, and I
I,
was not as right, and I was not quite as precise in my languaging as perhaps I should have been. And I got my clarity in spades, and it was very, very uncomfortable. I had a lot of crap to wade through, and it was amazing when I came out the other side, but I could have asked for a smoother journey. You know what I mean? So I literally got what I asked for, but I didn't word it carefully enough. So again, is that communicating with spirits? I would say yes. That's pretty clear. Now you can make anything mean anything. Yes, there's always that argument. And if you want to spend your time and energy doing that, you could, or you could just be open to what shows up. and you'll know it when it shows up.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's exactly it. Like when you know, you know. There's no
And
like walking away from it.
it's not a satisfying answer, but it is the answer that we're going to have to give you. But I mean, when I was going through that clarity process, Daniel knew all about it. And he was like, oh, okay, so you've got this going on and there's that happening. And the two of us were back and forth about that as it was going on. And I was like, okay, I'd really like to get out of the other side of this now. Ooh, that was tough. And it was a very tough process because the spirits that I work with are not warm and fuzzy. They're a little stronger than that. And so, again, you have to be careful how you ask for things because when you get it, you get it. So, and it's not always, the comfortable bits. You get the whole thing, which is another thing that scares people, right? Because they're like, well, what if I can't handle it? Well, I imagine you won't get it if you can't handle it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't spend time in a fear-based viewpoint of all of this practice, because if you do that, you're going to hold yourself back. You can't do something if you're afraid of it.
Yeah. Well, because you bring up a good point. It's a good reminder because that's why we've been talking about know yourself, because it gives you an idea of what to expect when you have your interactions. If you know you're not in a good place and you know you're not ready to accept a kind and loving answer, well, guess what kind of answer you're going to get? You're going to get a rough and a difficult answer. So
Yeah, you have to
so
feel confident.
Right.
You have to feel confident in who you are.
Yes. Because your answer is going to match what you desire or you need. It matches what you're willing to accept.
So there's a lot of we've mentioned in pretty much every episode at some point. So I'm sure you've heard it lots if you listen to
Patrick
lots.
Patrick is actually he's one of our most consistent listeners.
So, well, thank you. And so a big feature is being really clear on what you want and why you want it. And that's not to say somebody's going to tell you, well, that's not a good motivation, you can't do it, or that's a bad thing to want. This is rules crap from outside. This does not apply right now. What applies is you being sure of what you want and that you actually want it. You know, that old saying of be careful what you wish for, because sometimes not getting what you want is actually the best thing that could possibly happen. And I've had that, I don't know how many times. That happens a lot to me. And afterwards I can see that, oh, yeah, dodged a bullet there. Phew. And boy, I get pulled back from the brink, I don't know how many times. It's just how it goes for me. So that's that chaos feature again.
And for the listeners who like country music, think back Garth Brooks' song. Sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. The whole song is about that.
There you go.
But so this actually ties back to the curse thing too, to the curse question. Know what you want, because when you know what you want, it's harder to put a curse on you, because your flow is aligned and it's hard to disrupt that flow.
And really, I'm always curious about like why did the person want to do that to you? Because that gives you a lot about their level and then how much effort you need to put in to send it back to them. Because that's a pretty knee-jerk, immature response, is to curse someone. That's I personally don't like that idea for myself, simply because, again, you put an attachment into that. There's a piece of you going into that curse, and then you have an attachment to that person. You've got this ongoing thing, right? So if you don't want to deal with that, hence the freezer spell, that kind of helps to sever things. There's also candles and there's a cord cutting ceremony that you can do.
I was going to say,
yeah. And that's a good one. If it's someone you had a relationship with, for example, and it's an ex who's really annoyed at you because you got a new girlfriend, and so Nina, here I'm gonna make your legs drop off, or whatever it is. that one you do your cord cutting spell because you don't need that kind of stuff attached to you. So, like I said in the beginning, it depends on where it's coming from and why, as to what you want to do to get rid of it. But it's always curious why somebody would do that in the first place.
Mm.
I advise you don't hang out with people like that.
Yeah.
Soon as you know they're like that, go somewhere else.
Yeah. I was just listening to the producer, but he's just nodding his head and going, yeah.
Mhm.
Which is funny because coming from a producer, that's all about powering through things.
Some things you don't need to
Yeah.
power through,
Right.
though. You know, it's like if when you learn martial arts, the first thing that you learn is run away.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a fight coming your way, don't get out of it. And only if you can't get away from the fight do you kick ass.
Right.
But
And even in
that's
a lot of martial arts, right? It's not about using your power, it's about using your opponent's power. Why tire yourself
exactly,
out when you can let your opponent tire themselves out?
exactly. You just like take their force and move them
Yeah.
through. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the same kind of
Mm.
deal here. You know, you don't want to get tied up to that though.
You got any more questions?
No, not really. Other than maybe rules. Yeah, there's no rules. I can't. I have a hard time believing that there's no rules.
If you want core rules, there's no I don't know if you'd call them rules specifically, but like I said,
Should be
right?
good.
The more you know yourself, the more tuned you are to the flow, the better you have a use of the flow. The better your intention, the clearer the effect you're going to get, and the more likely to get the effect.
Well,
So
here's the thing too.
yeah,
If you're muddy about what you're doing, you're not clear on why you're doing the thing, know that what comes back is going to be muddy,
right,
right? You're not going to get clear results, good results, desirable results if what you're putting out there is a mess. So that's where the clarity thing comes in. Just take a little bit of time first to figure out what are your rules for you? What do you want to put in place? And do that because you're the only person that has to answer to it,
right,
Right.
right? So you're going to get your repercussions. Like I said earlier, I was asking for clarity and I was pretty definite about what I wanted, but I didn't put very clear parameters on it, so it got
right,
big. It was a lot, and that was on me, right? So every time I do something that goes a little sideways or it isn't exactly what I planned, then I figure, okay, I need more precision here, or I need to take longer there, or whatever it is. But I'm shaping that. Nobody's telling me it has to look this way because nobody knows.
right,
That's one of the illusions that we live under right now is other people telling you what to do. They
Yeah.
don't know jack about what you need to do.
mm,
They don't know. It's nothing to do with them. And people who like to tell others what to do, they have such a deep insecurity. It's sad. And how they overcome it is to tell other people what to do. Or if you've ever had a micromanaging boss, for example, and if you haven't had one, you know people that have. That person is micromanaging, they're hovering all the time and correcting everything you do. Why? Not because they're so good, but because they're actually so insecure that they're covering for it by being a pain in your ass. But that's just a sign that that person needs you to reassure them that they're okay where they are. And literally, the way to deal with a micromanaging boss is to ask them, how can I help you? What would you like from me? And they back way off because they have no idea how to answer that. So this is the rule-based thing, is that they don't know what to do. So we have to keep tight control. You know, if you have little kids and you don't want them to get into trouble, you kind of box them in, right? You stick them in a playpen, or make sure that they can't get very far. Why? Because you have no idea what else to do, so you box them in.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, like there's the fundamentals of how magic works,
Yeah,
but actual rules like you can only do this on Sunday or whatever, that is
Right.
either how you feel or the spirit you're working with decides they want to do things. But that's between you and the spirit you work with. That's your relationship with them, which well, it's not even really a personal rule. It's more of a like anything that just it's just the nature of things where the more of a relationship you have with the spirits you're working with to do magic, the better your
right.
magic.
Yeah. We've,
Because we
I
said it
mean, even
before, magic is a relationship.
if you're looking at moon magic, for example, you do this particular thing, you things let go of things at full moon, you ask for things at new moon, all that kind of stuff. You can, but you don't have to, right? You can do it anytime you like. It could be daytime. Like it doesn't matter. You don't have to follow rules. There are, boy, to sound like Pirates of the Caribbean, there are guidelines, right? They're not rules. It just you do you. And getting used to not having to follow other people's rules is, if you do nothing but that, that is an amazing life lesson. It's huge.
Mm,
And so many people never get there. That alone is worth a lifetime on the planet, just to learn that you don't have to do all the things you've been taught from day one,
mm,
right? You don't have to follow other people's rules. For, like I said in the beginning, for people who want to do witchcraft, but they really need the rules, you have Wiccan. And there's nothing wrong with Wiccan. I belong to a Wicca group. I don't tend to go in there much. Um, but they have some good stuff. And if you want to learn about history of witchcraft and things like that, that Wiccan can be really good. Um, if you don't mind being restricted, though, by rules. And if you don't like rules, then you don't do that. You do your own
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And it's okay to join a group who are doing similarly, but again, everybody will have their individual way of doing things. Danielle and I have been doing this for more than a year now, but we don't do stuff the same way.
No.
Not at all. But sometimes what I do will have an effect on
Mm,
Danielle and vice versa. And this is fine because we both agree to that.
yeah.
But we don't do the same work.
I do want to add, it's pretty funny. Was it the first time? Michaela, are you doing magic right now? Yes. Uh-huh. Remember, she's in
Yeah.
Colorado. So
mm,
Well, that's the thing. Geography makes absolutely no difference. I mean, I have a friend who's currently living in New Zealand, and every now and then she will message me and say, What are you doing? What's happening? What's going on?" And and we'll touch base and catch up with what it is that's happening. Or I'll do that with her. And we've done this for years. And we've each lived in different countries. We were both in Singapore, and we've lived in the UK, and like we kind of meet at different points around the planet at different times. But for years we've done this. And she's in New Zealand. So we're not even on the same day of the week.
yeah. So but just to show you that well, I mean to go back to measuring energy, the reason I texted Michaela and asked if she was doing magic is because I could feel the change in the energy around her. Yeah.
what do you mean?
So like, okay, I've said this to you before, right? There's non-local. It's not near you. I know there's a whole definition of what non-local actually means in the sense of physics and stuff like that, but I just use it to mean not near me, not within my normal senses to detect.
Mm,
So I can't just look and say, "Oh, Michaela's acting weird." So if I get a vibe or something around her, it's like, "Oh, okay, you're doing something," and that's kind of like saying with her friend, even though she's like way on the other side of the world, "Kid, there's something going up. What's up?" Okay, because it's like I'm feeling something. So you get a sense of things.
Mhm.
Actually, that takes me off on a tangent now that I've said that. This is another thing, again, another reason why you're on for people who are on this journey. There's always stuff going on. It's just a question of recognizing it for what it is. Like you might have 100 thoughts going through your mind at the same time, and none of them might be yours. You might be saying
mm,
to yourself, well, how do you read people's minds? Well, do you have 100 thoughts running through your head right now? You're probably reading people's minds and don't realize it.
Okay, if we go to human design, you have an open throat, you'll be getting other people's opinions.
That's another interesting matrix.
Mhm. But my friend in New Zealand, it just reminded me that when we were both actually in Singapore, there are times I would message her at like 3 a.m. and say, for crying out loud, would you go to bed, please? I'm trying to sleep. And she'd be like, how did you know? It's like, because I can't sleep. It's like, it's one of those things where, can you measure that? Well, I knew a thing enough that I would message her and tell her to stop what she was doing. And I would be accurate enough that she would be like, what, how did you know that? Sorry, and then she'd stop and go to bed. And I would know. Right. So it's just one of those things that it's there, those connections build, and you don't necessarily know who that's going to be with.
Mm.
Like Daniel just, hey, I want somebody to come on a podcast with me. And I was like, yeah. And so I jumped in, but neither of us knew how that was going to go. We just both tried it.
Yeah. I mean, and just so, on the terms of nervousness, we had to start twice. So, because I messed up recording the first time. So,
yeah.
But you deal with your nervousness and you move on. So, and what was I going to say? Because you asked about measuring twice now, I will offer you this. And I think I've said it to you before, right? I've had emails where when I open it up, like the person's emotions jump out. So what I might offer to you as an idea is just to get for your curiosity, look up techno-paganism.
Right.
I don't know if it's a thing anymore because everyone is used to using the internet, but back in the 90s, techno-paganism was when pagans were starting to get online and learning to do magic that way.
You have mentioned this before. Yeah. I need to look that up.
Yeah, because before we called them memes, there was a meme going around of, you're a techno-pagan when your ritual circle is like 30,000 square kilometers because everyone is at their computer on the internet doing their own part. So you have huge ritual circles.
I think it's just kind of the term probably has faded into nothingness and people just
That's
do
what
it
I'm
now.
thinking because I haven't really seen any or heard about it lately.
I'm curious though. Look it up.
Essentially, it's magic, mixing magic with machines, or more specifically, internet technology.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Mikhail have actually discussed, and we thought about it. Maybe it's like sort of an atmospheric magic, because what is the internet? What is computers? What is internet if not electrons in the atmosphere? On top of being on servers and stuff like that, but the connection between them.
Yeah. Right.
But it's interesting to think of it as a subset of weather magic.
Interesting.
Or frankly, even solar magic, because sunspots affect computers.
Sunspots affect a lot of things. You think Mercury retrograde's a problem? Sun flares are a big issue.
Well, yeah, like just in terms of thinking how you can measure things, right? Like energy, magical energy, or spiritual energy, however you want to describe it. There is planetary alignments. There's just the everyday effects of celestial bodies, gravity fields,
You
magnetic
look at
fields.
cause and effect, right? Like this happened at this time and these things were happening at the same time. Are they connected? You can say it's correlated. Is it causated? You can't prove that. But this is one of the things.
Yeah.
Not everything can be proven. Doesn't mean it's not real. It just means that it doesn't fit into our limitations of measurement, if you will. So again, the topic of measurement, but what does it mean? Like my friend in New Zealand, she's 16 hours ahead, right? She's on a different day. But we're measuring that. That's time. So why isn't now? How is she on a different day to me if we're using a unit of measurement where it should all be the same? But it isn't. It can't be.
Right.
So it doesn't really mean it doesn't really mean that much, right? It helps you to know, okay, I need to be online at this time if I'm going to talk to my friend who's over there. We can correlate, we can put our times together, but what does it mean is like it's not as solid as we all make it sound.
And I was just thinking also optionally, when we measure things, sometimes we measure the thing directly if we can. Like a compass will follow a magnetic field, so you'll know where you're situated. But we can also affect or measure its effect
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the actual thing we're measuring, but its effect on
Well,
things.
look at the moon and tides.
Mm.
The tide change when you got a full moon, you got
Right.
a
We
high
don't measure
tide.
gravity, but we measure its effect on things. Weight isn't a measurement of gravity itself, or it's a measurement of what it's doing to something.
Right.
I think the biggest point here is measuring things or knowing the how of something
Right.
isn't the important part. In
I like
fact,
the
it's
thought
it's a
experiment.
bit of a red
Yeah,
herring. It's like
it
it's
is.
not. It's distracting you from what actually is worth
Mhm.
looking at.
Well, that's an important lesson because sometimes being curious and wanting to know things, and it's awesome because that's how you get into learning stuff in the first place. But sometimes it's your distraction from learning what you need to learn because you focus your attention on learning something else that's not as consequential.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for doing that. And that reason is usually you're not prepared to get the answer, uh, the original answer you wanted. You're not ready
Well,
for
the
that
thing
yet.
is, too, if you're very focused on how am I going to do this thing before you ever do it,
Mm-hmm.
the chances are you're not going to do it because you're always trying to know what cannot be known. You can have a path in front of you that looks likely, but is it for sure how? Not necessarily so. There can be a lot of different ways to how something. How are you going to get there? Like if you're looking at how am I going to choose a job, right? Well, that depends. How are you going to choose one? Are you going to make money a priority? Are you going to make job satisfaction, travel, flexibility of hours? Like, how are you going to decide? And there's a lot of how, right? A lot of different paths you could go. None of them are wrong per se, but not all of them will fit you. So if you spend your time trying to figure out how to do a thing before you do it, you're not going to do it. You just have to jump in and try.
Mm.
Some of the craziest moves I've ever made in my life are the ones where people say, "What are you nuts?" And then I know I'm about to do the right thing. And I don't know how it's going to work, but I do the thing. Like literally, when I left the UK to go to Bangladesh, I had a backpack. Half of my backpack was meds for this orphanage I was going to, half of it was clothes. I left my apartment behind, and I had no idea what I was doing next. None. Zero. I had no money. I just went. And I did not know where that was going to take me, how it was going to look, or anything. And I went for 6 months. I stayed for 3 years, and I ended up going, all kinds of places and meeting all kinds of people. None of that was in my how. I had no idea. I didn't have a how. I just like somebody said, "Why don't you go there?" And I said, "Hey, that's a good idea." And I went, and everybody's like, "What? Are you crazy?" Probably, and I go anyway. And that was a brilliant decision. Like I had a fantastic time. I learned so much in Bangladesh in that time period I was there. I couldn't repeat that if I had three lifetimes. It was phenomenal. So, is it what you expect it to be? Who knows? But I didn't have expectations really. I didn't have a how. It just went.
Well, that's a big one,
And
right?
that,
So you get in
yeah,
your
you
own
just
way
got to
with the
trust
how.
you.
You can get in your own way by having expectations. We've said this on the podcast a lot of times, but your
Yeah,
expectations limit what you can see.
but that's not necessarily needing to know how, though. You're coming at it with a bias. That's not the same thing as being genuinely open and curious and wondering how, right?
Now, wondering how is not the same as needing to know how.
Mm,
Wondering how means you have a question about it. Needing to know how means you're focused on it. right? You don't spend time. If you're curious, how is this going to work? Then it's just like, oh, hey, I wonder how this is going to work. And then you move on. If you're really focused on knowing how, then you're stuck in this line of questioning that isn't necessarily going to help you move forward because you're never going to have an answer. It's like if I said to you, well, what if for something else, right? It doesn't matter what that follows the what if, because there's always another what if. And then what if? And then what if? And you could be like 102 years old and you're still sitting there going, yes, but what if? And and you're not going to have moved on because you're stuck in that loop.
Right.
So I'm not saying asking the question how is a problem, getting stuck on it is a problem. Unless that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
In which case it's fine. But you're not going to move forward anywhere.
And I'm glad you
You
asked
can't try
because,
things if you
yeah.
don't know.
And I'm glad you asked because this is a thing where, we've been discussing this before, is like what we know and how we communicate it is through our lens. And so it may not read the same way to people listening.
Hmm.
Well, we can only give our lens, right? And
Right.
and that's exactly what's wrong with listening to other people with their opinion of you, right? Because I could, for example, I've just met you today, Patrick. So, really briefly, I could give you my opinion of, pick a bunch of things. And you know what that would mean? It would mean that I'm telling you a whole lot about my lens and nothing at all about you, because that's all I can do. Now, Danielle knows you much better. He's still doing the same thing. He can only give you his lens on what he's anticipating to see, and what he expects of you and what he interprets of you. So when you give other people that power to say, well, you can tell me what to do, you can tell me I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't look like that, I should look like this, whatever the shouldn'ts are, that's giving them something they don't own. It's not theirs. They can't have that because they don't know. It's like if I said to you, I know exactly what job you should have. Great. How the hell do I know that? Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
because I'm not living that life. You are,
Mm-hmm.
right? I cannot. I could give you all kinds of brilliant suggestions, but I can't know which one's right for you, if any. So it's problematic when other people are telling you how to do something because they're just giving you their lens.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. In the end, no matter what anyone else tells you, you still have to make a decision based on yourself and what you need. People can give you suggestions and you can consider their suggestions, but it should never outweigh your own opinion, your own understanding of yourself.
Your own knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you talk about how do you know when you're sort of talking with spirits and what have you, I would say, from my perspective, a great place to start is what interests you. Like, do you like being in nature? Are you drawn to fire? Are you drawn to storms? Like, what kind of stuff do you like? Look at that. Like, what's there? What do you find there? When I was a little child, I used to, and we lived in Australia. I used to run out in some massive storms there. I'd run straight out into the middle of them and just kind of dance around. And my poor mother would be standing in the doorway screaming at me. She wouldn't come out and get me, mind you, but she'd be there screaming at me to come back in. And I wouldn't because I've always loved storms, right? And I absolutely adore storms. I've been fortunate enough to live in places with big ones, and they're great, and I miss them. So for me, there's something there. There's that electric energy. There's the chaos of the wind, and big energy, big stuff happening. That's great. Other people are like, I could do with something to smoke now, so I don't have to be panicked about the storm, please. And so it depends. What calls to you? What do you love? Are you happy paddling a canoe on a river, or being in the forest, or not? Like, what's the thing? Look there. And there could be more than one thing too. Remember, there's no rules. You can have a bunch of things.
Right. Right.
But typically something will be, you're always, when you see it, you're like, ooh, let me go over there. Like, what's that? What's that thing?
No. Okay. But to bring it back to the more like measurement, I think what I'm really trying to get at is like, because he's talked about spirituality as science before.
Right.
And so would you say that you could reduce spirituality to a kind of science? Because it seems
What do
like,
you mean by so? Because you're saying reduced. So basically, what you're trying to say is, can I break it down to a bunch of rules
well,
that I
like
can put attached to theories?
talking about measurements, right?
Right. But you can't measure everything in science, but that's because you can only really measure something if you isolate for variables.
Yeah. Well, I assume if you get advanced enough, you would be able to isolate certain spiritual things.
But remember, a science specifically
Mm-hmm.
is learning something. So
Mm-hmm.
anything, any course of study is a science. Literally, that's why you get a bachelor's of science, because that's what the word science means. Just like a PhD, a doctor is a teacher.
Yeah.
That's what a doctor literally is. That's why doctors have MDs at the end of their name. Yeah,
Huh?
medical doctor.
Oh.
That's actually specify. Because if you're just a doctor, you're just someone who knows their field very well and you can teach it.
Mm-hmm.
These are words that have gotten lost. So when I say a science, I don't necessarily mean you can nuts and bolts it, but you can study it, get as much understanding out of it as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I'm using a term differently than you're expecting.
Right.
I'm still using it to mean you can study it and do as much lab work as you want and try to, quantify it as best you can. You can do that.
I have to
Yeah.
jump in.
Okay,
I
go
have
ahead.
to jump in.
Sure.
Okay, I have a science background. I have degrees in science, and I love science. I'm fascinated by it. But science is a line of questioning that you come up with. The question is actually a big part of science, right? Like it's actually a big deal. You have to have the precise question in order to get the answer. Now, there's a comparison for the magic, if you will. You have to be really clear on what you're looking
Mm,
for in order to get a clear answer. That's the first thing. So you ask the question and you have an idea of what you think it might be. So now you test your idea.
right.
How are you going to test your idea? Well, you need to see what elements of that can I kind of pin down and focus tests on. And that's how you build up this whole protocol for testing something. But here's the deal. You can disprove, you can say, nope, that is definitely not the thing. That is not working. Nope. I'm getting repeatable results that say no. That you can be sure of. When you get a yes, you test it again and again and again to see, is it a repeatable yes or is it a one off? And now you can say, it is most likely this thing, but you
Right.
can't say for certain yes. You can never say it for certain because there's always information you don't have. There's always things you don't know. Once upon a time, if you had asked the most scientific of people on the planet, they would have told you the earth is flat because that was the best information they had. I'm not talking about the nut jobs that still say it, but the most scientific of people would say that because that was their best knowledge based on the information they had access to. So when you learn more, the idea of science is when you get new information, aha, this is great. Now you test something again and you look at it differently. So using a very physical example, I used to do a lot of fitness training and so on. So, and also been a nurse, so medical stuff. The body, we used to test cadavers to see what happens when you put electricity into muscles, the contraction, relaxation, and so on. How that happens. Oh, okay. So we learn that the muscle does that. And then because science was using cadavers at the time, the information that came out of that was suggested that muscles kind of work in a line. So it's all the way up the arm and, all the way up the leg and so on and so forth. And we just thought muscle contractions kind of went in a straight line. Then science advanced and we were able to put electrodes on athletes while they're alive and moving. And we discover, holy cow, that's not how it works. There are cross chains. You don't go up and down in a straight line. Your left isn't your left and your right is your right. No, things cross through the body. Now we have whole different information that we could not get using a cadaver. We had to have live people who could have these electrodes placed on them without causing pain, right? So that they could do their thing. So were they lying before? No. Were they deliberately doing anything bad? No. But that was all they knew. So science changes.
Right. It seems
So
like,
even if you were an adept in magic, you still only know as much as you know, and so you're still going to be limited by that.
yeah, but that does seem to get like, to me, that would suggest you're getting at something outside of yourself. It's more universal, right? Which would then imply a kind of rule set, a rule set for magic, and you start applying that to other people. Since it's not just your thing, right? It's a thing.
Okay, how
So
do
by
you think
rules, yeah, good.
if you're talking to somebody from Borneo, do you think their rules would be different to yours?
Yeah, I would assume
Just
so.
generally in life, yeah. So which ones are you going to apply? See what I'm saying? They could be in the same spiritual field as you. So whose rules apply? Yours or theirs?
Hmm. Right. I don't
And
know.
then throw people from different religious backgrounds in there. So
Yeah.
they come from a different understanding, right? So if you were Muslim, but now you're not, first of all, good luck. And secondly, you're looking into things magical. Well, you bring a certain perspective with you, and
Hmm.
it's definitely a set of rules,
Hmm.
right? That you have grown up with. So again, who's apply? Because I doubt I would accept any of them.
Mm.
So, because I don't recognize them as being mine.
It's the there are some fundamental truths to how magic works, but basically how you make it work are it's up to
Your
you.
interaction with it is yours.
Yeah.
How it works is what you find out.
Hmm. Maybe that's what I want to get at. Just talking about the fundamentals of magic.
Yeah. Use this visualization. Gravity is gravity. Now, some people jump out of a plane and plummet to the ground, and some people jump out of a plane and use a parachute, and then
Hmm.
you can fly. Some people jump out and use a flight suit, and you have an even better flying time.
Hmm.
Either way, gravity pulls you towards the ground. But of the three,
So gravity's
two of them
rules didn't
are
change.
using gravity differently.
The rules of gravity didn't change. What you
Right.
did with it did.
Yes.
So
So
that's, yeah, I mean, the most fundamental thing is being clear on what you want and why you want it. And if you get that sorted out, the rest should follow.
does that give you an idea? Because I know you're fixing in your mind, like you can go get a physics book. A
Yeah.
physics book will give you math,
Right.
and you can do math.
Yeah.
But that's only one form of science. That's the hard sciences. I think it's how it's described. But you have the soft sciences where you can't do the math and you can't quantify in the same way because there's too many variables to take into consideration.
Right.
But even with something like physics, it's only known until it's known differently.
Right.
Like it can still change. We don't know everything about anything.
But I
Hmm.
think that's what you're getting at, right? Can I go to the library, get a book, do the math? Can I
Well, you can go
painstakingly
get tons of
reproduce
books.
a
You can get tons of
something
books,
capable? Yeah.
but it just depends on what do you want and build from there.
Yeah.
If you can
And
start
even,
building your own library, that's even better.
right.
Like your own experiences, write them down. Something that you have a good idea about, write it down. You know, if you can lucid dream, which we've talked about before, and that's where you know if you've been lucid dreaming because first of all it's really really clear, and secondly you're absolutely knackered in the morning, but you know it's
Mm,
exhausting. But those kind of you can work out a lot there. You've
Mhm.
done astral travel, you described it,
right.
so can you do that again? That could be really interesting. Like you can get a whole heap of things
Yeah. And that's
understood from
also,
doing that.
you know, using that example again, this also gives you an idea of how to communicate with spirits because you had a communication.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you have the goods.
And you already know you can do it and come
Yeah.
back and you're fine, right? You already know that. So that's as much as you need to know to be able to do it again.
Mhm.
And that's the why you're on again, because listeners, even
This
though,
poor guy's
and like I
mind's
went
being
through the
blown,
same
I
thing
gotta tell you.
myself. Yeah. I went through the same thing myself. I didn't look at what I was doing as anything magical or anything, me connecting to something. It was just something somewhat. I had a trickster teacher, so it was everything being done to me, but I couldn't do anything until I realized, oh, wait, I can do stuff. And I am part of this. I looked at it, things happening to me instead of something I was involved in.
Mhm.
Right. And the things happen to me is a mindset
Mm-hmm.
to get out of and leave far, far, far behind because nothing happens to you. It happens around you. You can be involved in it, but it's not about you. It's about what you do with it. And that might sound like what? I mean, I had a very difficult childhood, right? My childhood was pretty traumatic. I had a lot of things happen that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But that didn't happen to me per se. I was there, I was in the way, I got that experience. Um, I sort of ended up receiving it whether I wanted to or not. But the part that I get to deal with now is what am I going to do with that information? How do I move on from there? And personally, I think I've done pretty well with it and used it in a beneficial way. So, but the other thing is to recognize that the people who did the things they did, they were coming from a difficult space that made that seem like a course of action to them. And I cannot sort that out for them, but I can accept that it wasn't about me. I was there, but anybody could have been there and they would have had the same things happen. See what I'm saying? Like it could have been Danielle could have been that child and it would have still happened that way.
Mhm.
So it wasn't personal. And when you get out of that space, you can put a lot of baggage down and just say, well, yeah, that was a donkey load of whatever. And now I'm going to do something good with it.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean it's not valid. It doesn't negate it at all. It just means you don't have to carry it anymore. And that's a big step too to getting the clarity you want with moving forward. Because while you're dragging this sack from behind, and this stuff's just coming right now, I'm just channeling this, so whoever it's for, when you're dragging that sack of baggage from these people did this and this happened and it wasn't fair, and oh, it wasn't fair, that's a huge one, right? Like that's the big bow on the sack. And it's like nobody cares, it doesn't matter, it's not a thing. It totally is immaterial as to whether, of course, it wasn't fair. If it wasn't nice to you, then the thing wasn't fair. But it doesn't matter. Point is, what are you doing now? And how are you transmuting that into something useful? What information are you getting from it? So if you learn, okay, now I know how to make clarity out of this situation, whatever it is, good. That's something you got out of it. Go do that. What was is always there in the past, but it doesn't have to have any power anymore. You don't have to give it any energy by reliving it and thinking about it. I really don't know who this is for, but whoever it is, take it and run with it. That's what I got.
Yeah. I just noticed what was written on your hat there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Did your niece mark you as hers?
So it was more just the hat, though.
Yeah. Because his niece's name is Diana.
Ah,
Well, my grandniece, but yeah. But yeah, no, it's just I noticed it. But yeah, that was a good one, Michaela. That's a good one. Yeah,
yes.
Brother Boar is still producing for sure.
Mhm.
What was I gonna say? Probably nothing important. Other than to say, I was telling Patrick yesterday. So Brother Boar, when he shows up to me, he tries to show up to me as like a small little cute little cuddly boar. I'm like, okay, listen, I understand that's not you. Like, you don't have to do this. And I said, show up as you actually show up as. And then it was like a big, like, kind of gur boar, like the size of a house. Like, I'm like, that's fine. You can show up like that. I don't care. Like, I don't need you to do anything else. But that's
That's
probably another.
actually a good example. That's a good example of being clear on
Mhm.
what you ask for, right? Because if that had then scared you
Mm.
and giving you nightmares for a week or something, you would realize that, okay, I actually asked for something more than I wanted.
Yeah.
And let me modify that next time, you know? So you learn a thing and you move on.
Hmm.
And it varies as you go along. I think that's the most fun actually, is that you create your path as you go. I don't know what it's
Well,
going
and
to look
that's
like today or
yes,
tomorrow, even, right?
yes. That because I've been really thinking about this because I'm thinking about my own future and what to do with teaching people magic. And one of it is that like this is your own journey to create. And what instead of like when I first taught the course, I had very specific. These are tarot cards that you read. This is what you're going to do every day. You're going to do this. This is how you're going to look at it. But I did give people the option of you're going to make yourself a magic persona. You know, you get into this personality, you drop everything else that's not that personality while you're doing your readings and stuff like that. So I kind of gave leeway a little bit there.
You
I had
also
it,
gave rules.
but I gave rules. Now as I'm thinking about it going forward, it's like no, like having said, right? If the power of Pikachu compels you, that's how you're doing your magic. So yes, the journey is yours. How you do it is yours. That's also why I'm labeling it primordial magic because you're actually going back to the roots of actual magic and how to do it. You're getting rid of all this. Not that what magic is now in terms of like, jar spells and whatever. Not that those things are bad, but I think the spirits actually like a more personal connection because as spells get old, they become more formalized. They lose their connection.
Oh, you have to have a connection to what you're doing.
Right.
Absolutely. But, this
Mm.
spells are, I mean, okay, I don't know enough about the Mormon religion to know
Right.
about the rituals and so on, but there will be some rituals. There are times and ways you do certain things, and it's a practice, right? And
Mm.
that's what spells are. They're a practice. They're a spell when you say it out loud is like saying a prayer. It's a thing that you're saying with an intention and you're expecting it to be received somewhere. The parallel is there, right? And I gotta say, religion took that
Mm.
from spells, but it's it's another way of doing things, but you don't have to have, nor will you probably get somebody else's seal of approval on your process because it's yours. They cannot. This is really about a huge amount of autonomy. It's not anarchy, it's autonomy. It's understanding that you are responsible for you and that
Mhm.
nobody else gets to take that role.
Right.
Nobody else
Actually,
gets to tell you what to do.
yeah. That's the power of magic is that you have your power over yourself. It's not that you're affecting the world or anybody else. The actual real power is that that you have power over yourself. That's the real power. I
Mhm.
get that's the best way I can think to word it.
Well, something that came up for me recently was the concept of safety, right? We are currently in a world on fire, and I
Hmm.
live in the US, so holy cow. We are a dumpster fire on gasoline over here, and it's quite the event. But safety is an illusion, right? The walls, I have this solid house around me. Great. An earthquake could take it, fire, whatever. How safe is it? It's safe until it isn't. And that is the case all around us. So where your safety is in yourself, knowing I'll be okay because I'll make sure I'm okay. And that's it. So faith the size of a mustard seed in yourself.
I wanna add an illustration to just show you how much illusions people hold to. Because even when you hear the story, you might actually have a moment. So where I live, lots of bears. I'm in bear country, right? I have patio doors. Like if a bear really wanted in, they can come in. But here's the kicker. Someone actually shared a story where the bears tore through the wall to get in. So not the weak parts you're thinking of, windows, screens, glass doors for your patio. Literally through the wall, just tore the wall open and came in. So you're looking at your house and you're giving it a lot of trust.
Yes.
But yet we have predators here who can tear through the wall. They just don't. It's not worth their time.
That's the thing is we
Yeah.
put our trust in, you look at religions, we put our trust in the leaders. A great many of them are scumbags. And I'm just going to have to put that out there because power corrupts. And they get into this position of power, and it's like, whoa, and oh, well, we don't like those things, we'll sweep that under the rug. And people get into positions of power, and so many of them can't hold it. So they do very, very nasty things with it. But that's pick a religion, and I really don't care which one you pick. They all have that in common, all of them. You look at politicians, I don't even need to say anything else. That covers that. It's so, but we trust them. They're going to look after our healthcare, and they're going to look after this schools and whatever else, right? They're going to look after all these things. Our house is going to be built by people who know how to build houses, and it's going to be solid. Maybe. I don't know. Have you looked at Instagram lately? There's a lot of stuff on there that suggests otherwise. We put our faith in things that simply don't warrant it. Instead, we should be looking at ourselves and saying, how solid am I? How can I trust me? And really focus the faith and the power, if you will, on yourself as a solid foundation. Because nobody else will have your back quite the way you will. Nobody else is going to look after you if you don't. And you can't rise above the opinion of yourself. So if you're used to like, oh, well, we have to be humble and oh, yeah, the meek inherit the earth. What the hell? Like, all that stuff. No, you know, am I going to look after me? Because if I don't, who will?
Mm.
And if I don't stand up for me and say the things I mean and mean the things I say, etc., who will? Nobody's going to come and do that. They can't because they don't know. They're not me. So you have to own it. And that's the big leap of faith in a magical practice is you have to own it. It's yours. You can't blame somebody else because that didn't work or that didn't go right or, well, this person said, I was told that. Even if you were, you still own it. You chose it. So, this is really about self-empowerment, self-ownership, and then coming from there.
Right. You can't do
And you
magic
won't
without
need anybody
cooperating.
to tell you. You won't need anybody to tell you your path because you totally know it.
Yeah, because you can't do magic without cooperating. So you're responsible for what you've done. And that's the
Well, you're responsible for where you're at now, right?
yeah.
And you can have done all kinds of very questionable things in your background and what have you, and many people have, and so what. It's that was then, this is now. Where are you now? What have you done with that now? and where are you going to? What are you bringing into the magical practice? And is it the best version of who you are now? Just go from there. Throw it in there and see what comes back.
Yeah. It's the gift you give to yourself.
100%. I've got a program. Well, it's not a program, it's a circle coming up. And I want 5 women. That's it. I want 5 women. And so far, the ones that have shown interest, the language I'm hearing from them is, oh, well, I have, and there's this laundry list of priorities that are higher than they are.
Mm.
And so that tells me right away, okay, I'm doing this because I feel called to do it. I'm not doing it because it's essential.
Yeah.
So, I don't have that energy of lack, that sort of, but you've got to come do my thing.
Mm.
No, but so that gives me space to be more clear on what I'm hearing as well. And what I'm hearing from those
Right.
people is I don't prioritize me. I put everything else first. Okay, then that's the result you'll get. That's what you'll get. If you put everything else first, then you won't be on the list, will you?
Right.
That's not very cool, but okay. So and the word selfish comes to me to be explained. Selfish, we're told, is a bad thing. And it depends on how you're using the term. So if you're
Right.
doing something for you that is going to cause problems for others, and you know it will, then that's like, okay, we're all hungry. There's only enough food for one person. I'm going to eat it all. Okay, that's selfish, and the other people are not going to do too well unless you go out hunting or something, right?
Right.
But if you say, well, I'm going to eat this, and then I'll help you guys to have food as well, that's not selfish because you ate first. You're making sure you have the strength to help
Yeah.
the others. See what I'm saying? So there's a
Mhm.
difference between martyrdom, which is the whole, no, 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 don't think of me, put me at the bottom of the list, that nonsense. Or there's I'm going to look after me so I can be there for other people, so I can be there to do the thing I came to do. That's not a bad selfish.
Right.
That's looking after you in a way that nobody else can.
Yeah. So Patrick, okay, I need you to
Is it
sit
me
still for a second.
channeling, by the way?
Yeah. Well, it's Patrick's turn. Just sit quiet for a second and be open. Like, don't try to control anything. Just leave yourself available, and whatever comes to you, comes to you. If it's an action, if it's a word,
He's asking you for a big leap of faith here,
yeah.
which is kind of tough to do on a podcast. Like
Yes, it
we could
is.
ask him to do that after.
Yeah, we might come back to it. If you're not ready to do it now, we'll come back to it. But Brother Boar is just being very insistent on it.
I think it's an excellent plan. I'm just not sure the timing is going to be
Yeah.
conducive.
It's how Brother Boar is doing it that's kind of confusing me, though. Quiet time on a podcast. That's audio. That's audio only. It's always awesome.
Hmm. No, I don't think I'm getting anything.
All right, that's fine. Because he's doing it in a way that's really strange to me. So on my screen, right, we're arranged that Patrick is on the left, on the top. I'm on the right on the top, and Michaela's at the bottom, making a triangle, right? So even though Brother Boar wants Patrick to channel, it's like he's pushing me towards Patrick at the same time. Like I'm in between them. And I'm like, well, how do you
Hmm.
expect him to channel you if you're pushing me and not him?
don't know.
Hmm.
So I don't know if he's trying to use me to connect to Patrick, because Patrick has no sense of Brother Boar, but he has a sense of me. It's weird and physically
I
unpleasant.
think
I should add.
what I'm getting is what Patrick's got is a whole layer of, and I get a lot of visual stuff, but there's a whole layer of no, it can't be that. No, I can't say that.
Mhm.
No, it isn't this. And there's a lot of it is. It's that. Like whatever that layer of no, it can't be that. That's the one. That's what
Right.
you're getting. You just don't want it to be that, or can't believe it's right there. Could be some of each. But
Mhm.
that's what I have a visual of for you.
Oh,
You know what? While you're contemplating that, I'm going to share a story.
right.
Today, I had the experience of, like I said before, I get panic attacks about existential stuff, about infinity, the existential, the stuff that you can't quantify, that you can't. It'll set it off. My brain will go like, I can't process this. Today, while I was driving, I was coming home. For lack of a better way of expressing this, the great nothing, the void was shared with me. It was just this with nothing. And it made
That's a hell of a thing when you're driving.
right. And I was like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I'm not freaking out when I'm driving, so I can't afford to freak out. So that's the first one. And I thought, okay, you know what? Screw it. Bring it on. Bring on the great void. Bring on the great nothing. And for a few seconds more, it was like, yeah, this is unpleasant. And I can feel the skittishness. And then it went away. Because it said, you know what? Screw it. Bring it on. You're obviously bringing it on at this moment for a reason. Because it didn't come out of nowhere, but I saw the path that it took to bring it to me. And I'm like, this isn't an attempt to freak me out. It's an attempt to share something with me.
You know, I wonder if it happened while you were driving because you weren't in a position to not have it happen.
Well, because the first thing
You
I
had to
thought of
keep driving,
was,
right?
as you say, you got to do something counter so that that behavior can't happen. And this is one of the first
Right.
things I thought of. Like, okay, Mikhail was talking about that because, I do it like if I have a panic attack in the shower, I'm like, well, you know what? I used shampoo, so I got to get rid of the soap. So I can't sit here and freak out. I got to, and then that behavior cuts down the fear because you had something to do.
Grounding.
Right. So I had something to ground you. But it was interesting because now I sat there with the great void, the great nothing, and just kind of jived, like just kind of sat with it and just kind of harmonized with it instead of having any anxiety or anything about it.
You see, that would not have gone well for me because I would have freaked out as I was driving.
Right.
That's just no. I would not be okay with having experiences like that while driving, just for the record. So again, there's a difference right there. It worked for Danielle. It would have been really bad for me.
Well, because it's like I thought to myself, well, I got to get rid of the layers that cause the anxiety, the questions that trigger now from this experience, because this was like a deep connection. And it's like, if I leave those layers in, I'm going to panic and I'm going to freak out. So I have to drop them. Right. And I let them go. And now it's like, I can't call those layers back.
Mm. Okay, so you know they've gone when you can't call them back.
Right. Because I was like, okay, I got rid of them. And now it's like, well, what the hell was scaring me?
Uh,
Now it makes no sense.
yes.
Like, not that it didn't make sense why it freaked me out, because I know it was my brain trying to process it and trying to make something out of it. But instead, I was like, well, you know what? I'm driving, so I can't afford to freak out. So you know what? I'm going to take this other route, and I'm going to let go, and I'm just going to drive with. I'm just going to sit with this. So,
That was
anyways,
pretty epic.
right. So I share that story just to give Patrick an idea of you're afraid to channel it and say something because it's like, oh, I'm going to look like an idiot. You've listened to the podcast. You can't get any worse than me and Michaela on here and the things we've
Why,
spoken about.
thank you.
Me more specifically, right? Sharing about being tagged by crows, but
I'm,
we've all
I'm,
shared,
I'm
we've
just,
shared things on here. Well, I mean,
I'm just teasing.
Michaela dressing bandages and pulling a finger off, like we've shared stuff. It's like there's no like
I
we've
didn't pull
already
the
shared
finger
stuff
off. It
that'll
came
get
off
us
in
kicked
my
out of
hand.
polite society. So
Yeah, I did not pull the finger off. It came off in my hand. There is a big difference. There was no effort on my part. It was just like, oh, okay, there
that
it
was fun to
was.
antagonize. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
take that story, right? And think about it channeling now. You have layers, you're worried. Those are the layers preventing you from channeling, which is probably what the nudging was, is to Patrick's not ready to listen. So if I make your life uncomfortable, you'll come up with something to make him listen.
he's got like this highway going on.
Yeah.
I see this really busy highway full of a whole lot of can't be that. No, 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 don't say that. It can't be over here. And there's this whole network thing happening. And now he can see it. It's going to go. It'll be fine.
And
He's just going to work
into,
through it.
yeah, and it ties into the science thing and wanting to have rules for magic.
Uh-huh.
What can
Get
I
your
hide
highways
myself
going on
behind?
there.
What can I hide myself behind? So
It's
that when I
fine because
fail, right? So when I fail, oh, I just didn't know enough about the rules.
Mhm.
yes, that wonderful concept of failure, which is really interesting because I mean it means nothing. Right. If you do a thing and you fail at it, it means it didn't work.
Mm. It
That's
didn't work
it.
that way.
But that's it. That's all it means. We make things not working mean a whole lot about us, and well, we're not good enough. This is schools do a lot of this nonsense of you should try harder. You're not paying attention. You need to do da 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 da. It's just one person trying to keep control of a whole bunch of kids, and they have no idea what's going on there. So they're just trying to squish them all in, and that's what they do. I've been a teacher. I know how that that can go, but it's yeah, it's something you need to not carry now, and just like it, failure doesn't mean anything other than that thing didn't work. And you know, for using human design now, if you have a 3 or a 6, or bless the people that have it both in the profile, then experimentation is the only way to do things. You learn through experimenting, and the gold is where it doesn't work. The real learning is when things go sideways and they don't go the way you expect it to. So for 3 6s, six
Mm.
threes, anybody with 3, anybody with a 6, so that's a whole bunch of people. Experimentation is actually the right way to do things. And you have to have failure. Society makes failure mean like all kinds of things that it doesn't actually mean.
What did
But
you
it's
get
a
for
fear
yours?
base, right? The fear of failure keeps people in control. They keep you, you know, oh, I can't do that. What happens if it goes this way? People will think I'm terrible. They'll think I'm stupid. They'll think whatever it is, you know, insert thing here. Doesn't matter. So what?
Mm. Sorry, Patrick, what did you get when you did your charts?
In terms of what
Your number?
number, it's a 4 6.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So the 6, the experimentation is that's you got 3 phases in your life with the 6.
Yes. That's what I was going
And
to say.
yeah, you got a lot going on there with the 6, but experimentation is how you learn. So if you've tried stuff and it's gone sideways, congratulations, you're living your design. That's how it's supposed to go. That's literally what you do with it. And there's a second phase of life, which you are not at yet. But when you get there, that's when you start putting it all together and saying, oh, okay. So these things over here actually mean that over there. And then I'm going to move this and I'm going to do that. And you start creating all kinds of wisdom out of all those experiments. So, and then you have things to offer people that cannot be bought. And that is your hard-won wisdom. So the 6 is, it's a lot. It's a hell of a number to play with, but in a really good way. And experimenting. See, I just learned something about you just knowing about the 6. And that is this concern about rules is out of alignment for you. This is exactly something for you to work on and get rid of because that is a societal and or family pressure. And I'm not dissing anybody's family. I'm just saying this is what we grow up with as kids, right? The people who influenced you as a kid, whoever those people were, they have got this idea in your head about rules are important. Must have
Right.
rules, got to follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, it's a problem. Bad. Don't, must follow rules. And it has been drummed into you 7 ways to Sunday. And really it's an effort to keep you from doing things that are not prescribed, not on the list of things that they want that are acceptable. But that is for other people, that's not for you. Your list is different. Your path is different to that. And you have to experiment in order to learn. There's no way you can't. It's what you're going to do. And you either fight with it all the way and have a tough time, or you go with the flow and realize that actually, yeah, I'm here to experiment. Let me try this. And that's what you do.
Yeah.
And that's just one tiny piece of your human design, a teeny tiny piece of the human design. But it's significant because when you fight against it, that's what brings you the problems.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, so both him and his sister, because I only have them two charts, because he's got two more siblings, but I only have those two. And they both end with 6. They both end as role models.
Now, the role model, okay,
Or,
the,
yeah,
the term,
numbers the 6, yeah.
yes. So the term role model, people often have the reaction Patrick just had, which is to sort of pull a face of like, oh God, I'm not. But the idea is that you learn what you are a role model. That's interesting. He froze.
Yeah, he did. I wonder if we lost him. Oh no, he's back.
That was interesting. You froze at a really interesting time.
She's about to give you something good, and then you so
You
didn't want
froze.
to listen. You affected the technology.
That was so cool. But the role model, the idea is that you learn all the things that you wish you had around you as a kid, and you become the person you wish you'd had around you when you were a kid. The role model that you wish you'd had. This is the number 6. This is what happens with the 6. He's looking at me like I've lost the plot. And maybe I have, but you think about it a little bit. There will be aspects that, oh, I really wish somebody taught me how to fish, or I really wish somebody hadn't taught me how to fish, or whatever it is, right? Those things will be something that you incorporate into who you become. And
Yeah.
we're always
It's too much
becoming, right? You are,
responsibility.
oh my God.
Yeah.
But to define the becoming, we are becoming until our last breath. So
Yeah.
you're always becoming.
Mhm.
I think I just saw a nuclear explosion over Patrick's head.
It happened a couple times already, but yeah.
What are they doing to me?
Yeah.
Nothing you can't handle.
Hmm.
It's a shame this podcast isn't visual at this point.
Yeah. Well, it is recorded. I mean, I always could post the visuals, even if just taking stills of the look on Patrick's face. Well, and I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons for Patrick being on is also because he's at that moment. He's at a moment, he's at a crossroads, if you will.
Well, there's a whole bunch of highways that need a little
Yeah.
deconstruction.
Hmm.
What I'm getting at is there's an opening, and Patrick might as well have some guidance
Uh-huh.
for his opening.
I am so looking forward to hearing about what comes up. I hope I get to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, we can always bring him on in 6 months if he wants to. You see that look? Head
Uh-huh.
automatically shaking. But
See,
that's
I'm
what
not
it's
sure I
like.
can do this twice.
Yeah. But next time he'll be more comfortable. You'll know what to expect. You'll have a sense of what's happening.
Right. Maybe we should talk about human design more. That was
That's what actually led to whole this coming together was his questions on human design. But
Human design is fascinating. And I have had people ask me, well, how does that work? How, can you prove it? And so on and so forth. Brilliant question. Hell no. I can't prove a thing. I don't have to. So here's the thing. When I do somebody's human design, I will say what I see, what's in the chart, what's known to be in the chart. I add my intuition on top of that to make it personal, if you will. Your human design chart is personal anyway. It's very specific to each person. But whatever I say is then up to the individual to test it. Is that true? Is that how it works? Do I, when I make decisions this particular way, does that work better than other ways? You go test it, because it doesn't matter what I say. I don't want anybody to believe what I'm telling them. I want them to go test it. There is no value in believing what I say. There's all the value is in testing it and finding out for yourself. So that's why I can very happily do human design without pointing to all the, pie charts and whatever else. Yeah, that's not the important part. I mean, I was very skeptical when I got into it myself in the first place. I thought it was a hole to throw money into. I didn't really know what it was about, but I didn't trust it. And then someone asked me to do my chart, and she was looking at it to see if she could figure out how we could work together better. And I'm a behaviorist, so I'm watching the body language, watching the face, and I got to see, okay, that looked interesting. What was that? And the whole body language changed, and she was just like, oh, got it. Okay. She changed just a couple of things, nothing big. Suddenly everything went smoother. I was like, okay, now you have my attention. What the hell was that? Where do I find that? What happened? And so, as I always do, I dove in and I learned a whole lot more and more and more. And then I started testing it out on people because I am sciencey. And so, if I tell you this, what do you think? And I'm telling you that. Does that work for you? And I started testing it and got to the point where I'm at now, which is I'm very happy to work with human design and explain it to people as it applies to them, because the meaning is there.
I was going to say, for the listeners, Patrick bought Michaela's book, so just so you know, it's also one of the
Thank
reasons
you.
why Patrick's discussing it. But yeah, and to me, that follows up actually with what I know about Patrick, him buying the book and being interested in human design, because he's always looking for how human beings interact.
Uh-huh. Well, that would work with that very curious experimental 6. Absolutely.
Well, and it's funny, right? So knowing the idea of the role model, knowing that's broken into 3 stages, and that's the final stage where you take all your wisdom and actually share it.
Depending on how you've done the other stages, because you may choose
You have to live to
just
make it to your old age.
well, the other thing is in that 3rd stage, you can, depending on whether you've become cynical or not,
Yeah.
and how you've responded to those experiments that didn't work. Like if you take it as a personal slight, that, oh, that's terrible and it should have gone this way and then you're going to go into a more cynical path, and you probably find a cave on a mountain somewhere and not come out, and you don't want to talk to people ever again, etc., etc. Or if you're taking those experiences and saying, okay, what do I do different next time? Or what was the point to that? What did I get out of that? Then you're in a position in that 3rd stage to be sharing it in a really amazing way with people who need to receive what you've got.
Right.
So you can end up becoming a pretty influential person if that's what you choose to do.
Right. So I was going to say was, right, because knowing something can either crush you or it can free you or set you free. And what I was going to suggest was understanding the 6 part, the role model part. Instead of trying to push yourself to be influential now, take this time to learn, to take advantage of what section you're in your life.
And by influential, I don't mean that you make tons of money as an Instagram influencer or something. That's not what I'm envisaging when I use the word. It's more that people will pay attention to what you have to say because what you have to say has value and it's helpful. And so it's a deeper thing than that superficial, oh hey, everybody listen to me. Look, I got shiny. It's not that. It's something far more important than that.
Yeah. I will throw
So
this
there's a
in.
whole lot in your chart, though. What I did not include in the book, and typically it's not available overly much, is the incarnation cross, which is a whole other thing. And you need to really understand your human design before you get to the incarnation cross, because that is a sort of karmic thing. It's a purpose thing. It's a bigger deal, and not everybody needs to know this or wants to know this. So it's typically kept separate from the other stuff, not as a gatekeeping, but more as a let's not drown people with too much weight,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
It can be done. It's not kept secret. It's just not as easily available.
Processing,
You don't
processing.
like you don't have to pass a secret test to get it or
Yeah.
anything. It's just that it doesn't necessarily mean anything until you've got the rest clear.
He's processing.
I see that.
Spinning wheel there. Or the bars.
Why wouldn't it mean anything?
Because it's an end point. So it's like if somebody wants to tell you a joke, but they only give you the punchline, it ain't that funny. You need the rest first, and then the punchline makes sense. So that's a pretty kind of an interesting example that just came up for me, but okay. We'll go with it. So that's basically it. You just need to have the other stuff in place first, and then from there, yeah, I want to know what the incarnation cross is about. No, it doesn't really matter. Either way, it doesn't matter to anybody other than you, right? If you want to know it, cool. If you don't, it's okay. And it too has higher expressions and lower expressions. So if you're in alignment, things will go this way. If you're out of alignment, they'll go that way. Shadow side, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
You can always ask me if you're interested, and I can have a look for you. But again, it's not going to mean as much if you haven't done the other stuff first. So it might be like much ado about nothing if you just get it for the sake of getting it.
Mm. Yeah. I was gonna say I looked at mine and mine matches for sure. What I'm doing.
Cool. Okay.
I got the right angle cross of the Sphinx 3.
hmm
And just looking at the description, I'm like, yeah, that works out.
Yeah, and like with all the parts of human design,
Mm.
there's this the description, and then there's more stuff
Yeah.
following on from that. But
Oh
again,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
but and you've seen yours, so you can decide from there, do I need to go in depth or not? And probably not. You know,
No, no, mine is fairly obvious. When I first
right.
saw it, I was like, yeah, don't need more description of that. You got it. It's there.
But
It's
you need to
on fun.
know
Yeah.
you need to know more beforehand
Mm.
to be able to get to that end point.
Yeah.
Like I said, the punchline makes more sense if you've heard the joke first.
Well, I did my chart at 52. So actually, was I 52 or 50? No, it was 52. Yeah. So I had enough experience in life to see the connections. I've had enough data points, if you will.
Right.
Right. So mine,
Right.
right across of the sleeping phoenix.
Is that what you got?
Yeah. I don't. What does that mean?
Well, what does it say right there for? Because you got the same map I have.
You're here to ride the wave between pessimism and optimism and share your insights from the process with others. Your energy can be very productive, however, it comes with moodiness, which will change you along the way. What you learn as part of your What you learn as part of your emotional process is your gift to be taught to others.
Or you could listen to what I said about your 6.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to say, see, you're looking at it and saying, but that doesn't make sense because I didn't hear the joke.
Mm.
Get through the rest of your stuff first, and then it will.
See, I already have enough data points on Patrick to know that's actually accurate, or to take a guess that it's accurate. In fact, you said something to me just a few weeks ago that tells me.
What? What did I say?
I was making a comment about your dad.
Mm,
Even before I finished the sentence, you're like, yeah, I already know where I act like him, and I've already recognized it, and I've already accepted it and processed it.
mhm. Right. How does that fit in with what? How does that fit in with that?
Because I was about to tell you, because your relationship with your dad being what it is, I said, you have to know why your dad became the way he was so that you don't go that way. Because you're also your dad's child, so some of his influence is going to impact you. And
Mhm.
you are like cut me off halfway through the statement and go, yeah, I've been down that road, I've done it, I've checked it out. I know what you're getting at.
Hmm. I see.
Without me telling you, like without me going into it with you or discussing it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's not the only data point I have, but it's a big one.
For the listener, Patrick has a very expressive face.
Yes, he does.
I've been told that.
And oh, I'm sure you're told that all the time. I mean, it's fascinating to watch the conversation going across your face. Bear that in mind when you're in a Zoom meeting with somebody that you don't necessarily agree with. You
Yeah.
might want to put your camera off because they'll know.
Yeah. You don't need to read minds you don't need to be able to read Patrick's mind to know what's on it.
Right? No, I was actually in a Zoom meeting once where somebody texted me and said, that face though. And I was like, whoops. And I kind of turned my camera off quick because,
Yeah.
the expressive thing can be a thing. So,
Someone had this has been described as, I muted myself, but I can't turn off the closed captions on my face.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So is that enough for you to process today, do you think?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, if you have more questions, go for it.
Well, odd questions here. In your book, you talk about logic circuits, I think is what it was. If I'm remembering correctly.
Mhm.
Right? What was that? What does that mean? Like, 'cause for me, circuit implies like a loop, you
Have you
know?
looked at your body graph?
Why?
It's full of loops.
It is,
Yeah.
but hmm.
They're all loops. The channels make loops from one center to another. When you look at your definition, whatever that is, what's your
Mm.
definition?
Definition. Well,
Yeah.
fine. Definition?
Single, split, triple,
Well,
really
yeah.
quadruple.
At least four centers are defined in two unconnected groups. Hmm. Bring,
Okay, so you're a split definition.
yeah.
All right. So then you have two circuits there that you're making decisions from, right? So your whole body graph is circuits and loops.
Hmm. But what does that mean, though? Like, because when I think like mechanics, and like, you know, iPads and stuff, very digital, dead.
Logical thinking,
Yeah, that's what I think.
processing,
Yeah.
needing to know how and needing to understand the process in the steps and stages. Geez, I wonder if that would happen to be in your plan anywhere.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Mm.
See, once you know that you have that going on, you can figure out ways to work with it that are beneficial to you. And you can see when it gets in your way and holds you back. So, God, I have
Actually, funny,
chickens really talking here right now.
because I've got Patrick's chart here, and the easiest way to say like your circuit, right? If you look at the bottom of your chart, you'll see that 41 and 30 are connected, 39 and 55 are connected, 19 and 49 are connected. The gates, there's not like they're not they connect to each other. So you got a circuit going on between your physical motor. I think that's the one, right? The bottom, or sorry, the root
Mhm.
center and the solar plexus.
Mhm.
They're linked very well.
Right.
So you got a circuit going between
But
those.
this is a discussion to do another time,
Yeah,
I think, not
it
really
is.
a podcast one, because we're getting
Right.
into your human design, and you might
You're
not
right.
necessarily want that out there for
Yeah,
the worldly's dog to listen to.
Mm.
that's true. That's true.
The reason why
Just
we're
to give you the mechanics of it, if you look at the diagram, you can see where the gates connect, and that's where you're making your circuit. Right? That's how that goes.
what is the circuit though? What does that actually mean? Is that like is there a flow between them? Is that
Yes. Yeah.
what
That's your
direction
energy flow.
what direction does the flow go in? Or is it like
What an
bi-directional?
interesting question.
Mm.
What direction does it go in? I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Like, why would it make? I'm curious. Okay. So, I mean, the connection from one center to another influences both centers,
Hmm.
and the energy flow would be bidirectional for sure because it affects both centers. But
Yeah,
what
it's a
an interesting
bidirectional flow.
concept.
Yeah, like a
No,
communication.
but the idea that the circuit would have a direction is fascinating.
Hmm.
Usually they do. Circuits usually have a flow direction, you know. I figured maybe energy goes out of one center into another, and then I don't know, that has some effect on you in
Mm.
some way.
Well, the centers are connected, and okay, both light bulbs light up. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah,
Think of it as a communication, like a peer-to-peer network. I don't know if you're
Right.
familiar with them. That's like before your time, but
yeah,
if you look at it
bring
like,
it forward a little.
yeah, it's any communication line is bidirectional.
Yeah, you go through, yeah.
So, okay, we're talking together now on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Which direction is it going in?
It depends who's talking. That's what I would say. Channel,
Okay, so
but the information flows. So, I mean, the information goes one direction unless there's
So we can
information.
get
is
super
it?
nerdy and talk about like out of phase and in phase, and
Could, it could.
the flow is bidirectional
Holy,
in the channel.
holy smokes! I am getting such a very clear, like, there's a lot of work to do on your need to know. Do you have no, you don't have a one in there. You got a four. Hmm.
Yeah, he's a 4-6.
There's something else in there that's really potently pulling you on that
You know what? I'll throw it
need
right
to know
out there.
line.
Everybody he's related to directly, he has regular communication with, has an engineering background, a science background, electrical background.
And a
So
disbelief in anything that can't be proven to them, except religion.
you could characterize it that way. I mean, I've dragged everyone in one direction, but so now you have more spiritual people. But the idea is still there's this grounded idea that A and B, if you do A, you get B.
Mhm.
There's steps,
Well,
there's a logical
like I said,
testing.
the human design stuff, I think we would need to talk about differently from on a podcast because it's you don't want to dissect yourself in public. You know what I mean? It's just this is about you. It's your
Mhm.
blueprint. The sixth line affects an awful lot of people, so I can talk about that. It's like saying, "Well, I'm a Gemini," so you can talk about that. But getting into the minutiae of that is not really a public event,
Mm.
typically.
Just a further amusement for the listeners.
Nice.
So his other uncle, like, so remember, they all live together. Like in like my siblings all live beside each other, except for me.
Okay.
So my
Rebel you.
so my sister, his aunt, her husband is a computer scientist. My brother, who is a master electrician, who also likes to cook, but his cooking method is direct, precise, every recipe like measured, not an extra grain of anything anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got those influences. I mean, I have a tech background and a background in science, but I'm also have an art background. So I'm a little bit in the weird spot, but
Oh, you're totally in the weird spot. Come on.
right. But there's totally a heavy tech, science, engineering
I'm
mindset.
yeah, I'm getting that. Mhm. That is apparent. I got that.
So yes, all his major male influences are like that.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm
Now,
very much appreciating the curiosity that's going on here because there's so many questions that are flitting across your face and like you're putting them all in boxes and I'll save that one for later and I'm pushing this one forward and that one goes over there and Mhm.
right.
Yes, until he learns to get through the maze and then gets at the end where it's like, I'm just going to absorb and I'm going to let let that information be what it is and work with it as it is instead of trying to control it.
Hmm.
It's still an issue with me. I've been
I
doing
know.
earth magic for like 3 weeks now,
Mhm.
and I'm still giving myself a hard time.
Remember when we first started the
Oh
podcast,
my
you
God, yeah.
tried at the beginning of each episode, Daniel would tell me how he thought the podcast was going to go and the way the process
Yeah.
never went that way. Not at all. And that was not intentional on my part by any means. It didn't go that way for him either. It's just yeah.
And to throw it out there, to be fair, this is how I work. If I'm left to my own devices and I mess up, that's me. But when someone else
Mhm.
is introduced, then it's like, okay, what do I got to do to make sure it works? But that's also my
Right.
incentive to, if I have to let things go, then I'll let them go. I am never more brave as I am when I'm doing something for someone else. I've cited
Cool.
before, I'm afraid of heights, but twice now I've ran across a roof to catch someone to keep them from falling off the roof with no regard to
Hmm.
myself. So,
Okay, that person needs to stop running across roofs, whoever that is.
well, but you know what I mean? Like the minute it's
Mhm.
not involving me, then all the trepidation is gone. Like it shuts down and it gets out of my way, and then I just do what I would normally do.
I just noticed the time on this. We've been going a goodly long while.
We have.
We have.
We've
This is
been
like
over,
2 episodes worth.
well, we're 2 hours and a half about because we talked a little bit and then, but yeah, so we're about 2 hours and a half. But yeah, um,
Now you
forget.
know why the podcast episodes are so long.
Yeah, it's funny because this is our
Hmm.
longest interview.
Hmm. But Patrick brought a lot of curiosity,
Yeah,
a lot of questions.
I guess.
no, you did. You have to realize your facial expressions also communicate things. It's not just the words you've said.
Right. Guess I don't have much control over that.
Well, I mean, that's to use Michaela's words. That's the story you tell yourself. It's fun to quote Michaela.
Knock yourself out. Go for it.
But you know what? It is actually a good mention. Unless you have any more questions, I think this is probably a good point to stop at. Brother Boar doesn't have anything else. I think you're probably going to get a visit for the next week, Patrick.
Hmm. Where's the best place to
Let go wherever no one's gonna bug you.
do bugs count as people that will bug me?
I don't know. Do
That
they?
depends. Will they take your attention?
Yeah.
Take a lot of my attention. I don't like how they swarm around me.
Don't go there then.
I know you want to go into the woods, which is awesome, and do it because that's Patrick's favorite place to go into the woods and do his not doing spiritual stuff.
Okay, so that's the answer to the thing I mentioned way back when of what calls to you. I don't know, bug repellent? Go for it.
Huh. Right.
Yeah. So I think we're all good for now, right?
Huh.
Weird way to end an interview.
I'm good.
Bug repellent.
All right. So for the listeners, right? I hope you've listened to what Patrick has done and paid attention, well, as much as you can to Patrick because this isn't visual. I might actually post some clips to visuals of it. I'm not sure yet. But
Well, check with
yeah.
first on that one.
Yes. That's why I'm not
And
making any
make it that
promises about
matter.
posting.
I might be pulling funny faces too.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we all did. Yeah. So just, Patrick had questions, and you could tell by his tone of his voice how it's changed to the episode. Even his body language that you can't see changed incredibly through the episode. And now he's more in a calmer, ready to talk state. But that's fine. That's good. So we're going to bring it there. So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
And Michaela Gaffin-Stone.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Patrick.
Simply Patrick. Patrick Units fame.
Yes. So until next time.
Until next time.